So around this time last year, we featured a story on the show about a man being arrested by Hampshire Police for posting a contentious flag online. The image in question arranges 4 Progress Pride flags together in such a way as to make them resemble a swastika. Harry Miller was also arrested for obstructing the police, and those arrested have recently received 2 letters. The first was an acknowledgement that the arrests may not have been entirely lawful and that the police will accept claims for compensation. The second insisted that posting the flag could still be a criminal offence if it causes anxiety. So to discuss this, please welcome one of those arrested at the time, former police officer Harry Miller, and the lawyer Sarah Phillimore. I'm going to come to you first, Sarah. There's lots of things online that cause me anxiety. Most of the people who tweet me, actually, on a daily basis, cause me anxiety. So can I get them all arrested?
Well, apparently, if you do something that the police don't like, then yes, and that's the danger, isn't it? Because all of these laws, I mean, this was the Communications Act 2003 that Harry was threatened with. All these laws predate the massive rise of the internet. So what we've got now is the ability to reach millions of people. Harry's tweet, where he basically said, come and arrest me, I'm posting the picture again, got 1 million views. Over 7,000 people liked it, thousands of people retweeted it. So I think this puts the police in a really interesting position. Are they going to arrest everybody who liked it or retweeted it?
Yes.
These laws are not fit for purpose because they're very much directed against an individual who's being harassed.
And we should say, Harry, that you posted that for a reason. I mean, this meme has been doing the rounds for years and years and years. It wasn't, and someone posted it and got arrested, whereas, you know, the thousands of other people who posted didn't get arrested. So you were making a point, weren't you?
That's exactly. I mean, the police argued in this famous second letter that the fact that the army veteran, when he posted it, put trigger warning on the post, that this in itself was evidence of his guilty mind. Because anybody, this is what they put in the letter, if you put trigger warning on something, that proves that you knew that it was offensive, therefore you are guilty. Now, you know that is patent nonsense. I know that is patent nonsense. So what I did was sent the Chief Constable the exact same image. I said, I understand that you are personally caused anxiety by this. That's why I'm sending it. And I intend to post it. I intend to put it up on our Twitter feed throughout the entire holy month of Pride. Come and arrest me if you want to. But, of course, they won't do, because whilst they're very happy to pick on the small person, if you like, the members of the public, they won't pick on somebody who's as bolshy as I am and who's got the fantastic backup of Sarah Phillimore.
Well, let's... so I should... Oh, there we go. We should probably just clarify, Fair Cop. What does Fair Cop do? This is your organisation.
Well, Fair Cop exists in order to challenge police overreach, where the police stretch a law to the point that it's no longer credible, which is what they've done with the Communications Act. That act was designed to stop people sending gross images to former friends, etc., with the purpose of upsetting them, ex-boyfriends, ex-girlfriends, etc. It wasn't designed for this. So Fair Cop has said, we will hold police forces to account. And lately what we're doing, when the police pick on somebody, we look and go, that isn't an offence. So our MO now is to put a massive target on our own backs and say, we're doing it, come and arrest us. But they won't, because they can't stand the fact that if they did that, we would have them out in court and I'd have their pants down.
But then if it's about double standards there, they're willing to go after people who can't defend themselves but not Fair Cop, doesn't that just go to show that they're not applying the law?
Well, exactly, and I think Harry's got a very effective strategy, and it requires being brave, it requires taking that risk that he will be arrested, or I will be arrested, or I'll be disbarred. But we both think that that risk is worth taking, because what's happening is really seriously frightening. The police are acting, I've always said this, as effectively the private militia for a particular ideology, which I don't think has any basis in fact or law or reason, which is a definite safeguarding risk to children. We have to be able to talk about it, to mock it, to be offensive about it.
Yes.
These are not criminal offences. These are part of a very urgent and necessary public debate.
Can I ask you what the law is on this? So, for instance, could someone post an actual swastika flag online, or is that considered...
Well, if somebody reports you to the police, even though perception-based hate crime recording is supposed to be a dead letter,
yes.
If somebody said, I found that very offensive because it was having a go at me for being trans, I think the police will probably jump into action,
yes.
Do something, because this is what they've been doing for years now without proper challenge until Harry came along.
Because my understanding is that this image, you can see why some people would find it offensive, right? Because but it's not someone posting a swastika. They're trying to make a point, a satirical point, about the authoritarian excesses of
I've been told
the trans movement.
by many people who I respect and admire that they find the posting of any Nazi iconography deeply offensive.
Right.
And I understand what they are saying. Many of them make references to trivialising the Holocaust.
Yes.
I understand what they are saying, but I'm afraid I reject this idea that we cannot make the link between current authoritarianism and past authoritarianism. Now, I thought the swastika image was a very visually striking graphic that said so economically, better than words could say, we are under the thumb of a totalitarian regime. And I think that's worth saying and worth discussing. And if somebody finds it offensive, that's sad for them, but that is their issue.
Yes, is the problem, Harry, a bit of literal-mindedness here? Is that people see that image and they assume that you're supporting Nazis or something like that?
Yeah, but that's a willful choice to do that. And also, it's ahistorical. People are wrong if they equate the whole of Nazism with the period 1942 to 45 and the gas chambers. Nazism was around from the 1920s, and that's the time, in the 1920s, in the 1930s, in the late 1930s, that's the time to call it out, because by the time you get to genocide in the gas chambers, it's too late. And that's what we're doing now. We're saying that the imagery that we're seeing now is too like the imagery that we saw in 1920s Germany and 1930s Germany. And why should we not be able to make that comparison now? Because if the only lesson you learn from Nazism is that the Holocaust is bad, then you're stupid, because there's so many more lessons than that to be learned.
What is it about the gender identity ideology movement that you find to be totalitarian or would, you know, justify that kind of comparison?
Well, first of all, traditional Nazism is not a gender ideology, but it is an identity ideology. So we've got that. We've got the capture of the police within the fascist state of Germany. We've got the capture of schools within the fascist state of Germany. We've got a proliferation of insignia and flags to such an extent that people feel that resistance is utterly futile. Now, when we get the High Court comparing the police to the Gestapo,
yes,
then I think we have it on very good authority that the direction of travel is toward fascism.
And that's interesting, isn't it, Sarah? Because, you know, you remember last year on Regent Street, it's covered in these Progress Pride flags in this really militaristic fashion. It felt like you couldn't escape this flag anywhere. And as I pointed out at the time, a lot of gay people feel that that flag is an anti-gay symbol. And a lot of women feel that it's a misogynistic symbol. So surely we have to be able to mock that, or at least have a discussion about it.
Well, exactly. I mean, that was what set the Nazis apart, was their use of propaganda. They were very... Well, I wouldn't say skilled propagandists, actually, because some of it was just so crude and revolting, but it worked. And I looked at those flags and I just felt absolutely chilled, because my father, we won't go into reasons why, was very interested in the whole of the Nazi history. And it was so reminiscent of the books that he had and the streets covered with flags. As Harry said, it's about an identity overwhelming you with the power of the regime.
But ultimately, the police shouldn't be taking an ideological stance, right? That's not their job.
Of course it's not their job. I mean, as Harry always says, they police with consent. The police can only operate if most of us trust and respect them and think they're doing a good job. When that tips, and it's tipping now, you know, look at me, a middle-aged lawyer, I don't trust the police now. If somebody put a brick through my window with turf written on it, I would not trust the police to deal with me fairly. So once the police lose the middle-class bourgeoisie, they're in deep trouble, because how are they actually going to do their jobs? They rely on our consent, our trust and our respect. And by being so partial towards one minority, they're losing it.
And do you think, Harry, just finally, that the police, it's sort of gone, they're too far captured at this point, that we can't really get this back in order?
Well, I think we can. I mean, I'm an optimist. I think to be an activist, you have to be an optimist.
Yeah.
So we will keep going into battle and keep provoking the police, because what I would like more than anything is to have our day in court. Prosecute me and let's chance it. Let's have a see, because I will bring all this evidence to the court and say, this is why we think that you are behaving like Nazis.
Right, absolutely fascinating. Well, Harry Miller, Sarah Phillimore, thanks very much for joining me today.